Hello, and welcome to the Multiverse of Madness. Hello, and welcome back to Popcorn Chat. I hope you guys are doing well. In this week's video, we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit that button, and whilst you're there, hit the notification bell to keep you up to date with when I've released a new video. So Doctor Strange is back with his own film after 6 years from its predecessor. So in this, Doctor Strange is having to deal with the multiverse, which we've seen him previously deal with recently in No Way Home. So it's much more of him learning about this realm whilst introducing new characters and seeing returning characters and the sort of drama that ensues around the multiverse. So first off, I'm going to run through some of my non-spoiler thoughts. So in terms of positives, one of my main highlights is the fact that we hear Sam Raimi's voice shine through this film. I was so worried that he was going to be controlled and sort of compacted with his directing voice because it's a Marvel film. However, he is very much there. He is shouting through the screen, you know, here's my Evil Dead references, here's my Spider-Man references, they're all there. If you're a fan of his work, you're bound to pick out some of the tropes in this film as well. Having someone like Sam Raimi on board means you're going to get those motivated camera movements. And what I mean by that is that they're very dynamic. We had those sort of Dutch angles, spiralling angles, like anything you've seen him do, very Evil Dead, you know. So he really moves the camera in order to keep your attention. It's creative, it adds to the story, and that was so refreshing to see in a Marvel film. And, you know, you could see this very much of independent filmmaker coming through in such a big corporate film. I loved it so much. Another element which I really loved about the Multiverse of Madness was the fact that Danny Elfman's score was absolutely beautiful and it worked perfectly with the film. It had some of those high notes in various songs which, you know, very sort of unsettling, very much of the horror genre. And then there's motifs that we've seen before for certain characters, but the sort of refreshing new notes that he added into this film were absolutely excellent. I was just drawn in by this soundtrack, and they don't normally grab me. The Marvel soundtracks aren't really ones that I'd go away and listen to, but the Danny Elfman, Doctor Strange, Multiverse Madness is one that I'm listening to straight after I saw the film. I loved it. So I don't have many negatives of this film. The only thing I could think of was the fact the pacing was off a little bit. The first hour of the film is really go, 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 and then it sort of slows down again in that sort of second half, sort of 2/3 of the way, and then picks back up again for the third act. So I think it's a little bit unsure of itself in terms of the writing, and yeah, the pacing was just a little bit off. So, but other than that, it's pretty good. So from this point onwards, we're going to be talking spoilers, so if you haven't seen the film, make sure you check the timestamps down below so you can skip forward to see my overall thoughts without having anything spoiled for you. But if you've seen it, make sure you watch this next bit. As I said previously, Sam Raimi's voice is shining through this film, with almost direct references to the Evil Dead. We have this moment where a character has his mouth sealed shut, and I was like, that's Army of Darkness, that's Evil Dead 3, like that's a complete rip-off from that. I was expecting it, but we did have a Bruce Campbell cameo. He plays a small role, that's sort of the hot dog vendor, but obviously he's already appeared in the Marvel world in Spider-Man. So it's interesting to see him play a new character in this sort of world that Sam Raimi's created now in the MCU. So we've got those Evil Dead references, and there's loads, like with the camera angles, you know, be it the Dutch sort of movements or the camera movements where they were very much like fisheye lenses but stuck on a character's sort of face reaction, as though the demons sort of underworld sort of characters were grabbing them. We had that very much with Wanda, and I can't remember if Doctor Strange might have had that as well, but I was like, yep, this is just, I was just like, come on, this is more of what I want. I absolutely loved it. So any sort of reference like that, I think it worked perfectly in there, and it was a great sort of ode to fans of his work, and new fans, I'm sure they enjoyed it as well. Of course, we had zombies as well. You know, we have Doctor Strange's body at the end being used from a different universe, and Doctor Strange uses it sort of as an avatar in the Dark Realm. And yeah, so to see sort of Benedict with that zombified makeup was absolutely amazing. It was quite terrifying. I think I would have been quite scared if I'd seen that as a child, but I absolutely loved that moment, and I think it was a real sort of test to Benedict's physical acting, which if you haven't, please go and check out his Frankenstein performance where he plays the monster in Danny Boyle's adaptation of the Frankenstein novel. You can check it out on Amazon Prime. It's absolutely amazing. I love it so much, and I could see those elements of his performance coming out in this as well. I think he sort of used that experience in this, so I loved it. One specific moment that I really enjoyed when we actually got to see Doctor Strange use his powers, because he doesn't really use them that much in this film, but when he did use them, he was able to entrap Wanda in this sort of mirror world, which we've seen him do in No Way Home. Loved that there. And it also reminded me of Spider-Man as well in the second one with Mysterio, how he trapped Spider-Man. It was very similar to that. So I loved what they did with those sort of mirrored moments, and Wanda's very quick on it. She was very quick to figure out how she could manipulate this to her advantage. And then when she came out of that mirror, oh my god, that was pure horror. That was real horror. I could feel the kids that come in, because it was a 12A. I could feel them sort of getting really scared at the moment. It was very sort of creepy, very Exorcist, sort of bent back double like that. Yeah, I loved it. It was great. I'm sure everyone's mentioned it, but those cameos I was not expecting. The only one I knew that was probably going to be in there was someone from X-Men. I didn't think it would be Patrick Stewart as Charles. However, I absolutely loved it. And everyone else, I loved how they used everyone from the MCU universe that we know and sort of gave them characters, you know, that maybe they're related to in some way, aka Agent Carter played, well, this version's Captain America, and the same with Captain Marvel. What I loved about this moment is the fact that we saw familiar characters as well as new comic book characters, and then they were just so brutal. I don't know if it was Raimi, the writers, I don't know how this came to be, but I loved how brutal they were. Like, oh yeah, you know this character that you sort of know? Oh yeah, gone. And I loved that. It was so brutal, so honest. And I could just imagine all the kids just like, oh my god, oh no, what have you done to Fantastic, Mr. Fantastic, and what have you done to Captain America, but Captain Britain or whatever she is, and turned him into cheese string. I just loved it. It was brutal, it was relentless, and it's just what I wanted to see in an MCU film. I loved it. It was bold and it was brilliant. This is a very brutal film for a 12A, and it's very unforgiving with what Raimi does in this film. Could it have benefited from being a 15? I'm not too sure. It kind of really pushed that limit of being a 12A. So I'd like to have seen what they could have done if it was a 15, but that's not going to sell as many tickets as they'd like, I'm sure. That's the reason why they did it. But it would have been interesting to see, we pushed it a little bit more, how much horror can we actually get into the Marvel Universe? This was a great cinematic experience. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you go and see it at the cinema. Hey, I'd even suggest watching it in the IMAX cinema. Probably in 3D as well, because there were some scenes made for the 3D. So go and check it out. It needs to be seen in the cinema. Get that surround sound. Get Danny Elfman's score in your ears. You're going to have a great time with this film. I'll be honest and say that I was going to stop watching the MCU films after this one because I felt they were very much rinse repeat, sort of cookie cutter films. However, seeing that they can allow directors such as Raimi to have their own voices and let it shine through so predominantly, which has made me think maybe I could stick with this a little bit more. It is wearing a little bit on me. However, this as its own experience was absolutely fantastic, and I just hope they continue to give directors and writers their own voice while still being in the MCU. So I'm giving this film 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you very much for watching my review of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Let me know what your thoughts are down below if you've seen it, and if you've not seen it, what are you hoping for it to be? What do you think is going to be the next sort of leap into the MCU? Where could they go possibly now? And do you think we're going to be seeing a lot more TV characters jump back into the films? I'd love to check out your thoughts down below in the comments. And I'll see you guys very soon for another popcorn chat.